Hello and welcome to the Sideline Live podcast. My name is Orla Keeling and I am the host of the podcast, where every week we bring you a brand new episode with guests ranging from Olympic champions to local heroes, coaches, support staff and anybody involved in the world of sport. Each week we will dive into different topics, including current affairs in sport, identity, skill, mindset, coaching, and also shine a light on those flying under the radar. So tune in for brand new episodes, new stories, and new insights you've never heard before. This episode is brought to you by Tenaris Recovery, an Irish-owned brand focusing on helping athletes recover smarter, rise higher, and live stronger. In elite sport and on this podcast, we often talk about training, performance, and preparation. But recovery is often the element that gets overlooked and yet one of the keys to reaching your performance potential. Tenaris provide products including compression boots, to massage guns and recovery tools, and their range is designed to support muscle recovery and overall well-being. So whether you're balancing busy training weeks, multiple sports, competing at the highest level, or just want to feel better after training, recovery is key. Tenaris are focused on making high quality recovery accessible for all, and as listeners of this podcast you can receive an exclusive discount code Sideline15 in all caps for a discount off your purchase on their website tenarisrecovery.com, which is available in the description box of the episode. Recover better, rise higher, live stronger with Tenaris. Okay, delighted to be joined by world medalist and a beast according to Olympic gold medalist Daniel Whiffen, John Shortt. John, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no bother. Thank you for having me on.
Has it gotten old yet, being a world medalist, being the best at what you do in the world?
No, it'll never get old. It's junior one, but I think it's still pretty cool that nobody 18 or younger was better than me in two events last year. So it was, it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, and I don't like you're saying, it's just junior. It's never just, John. If that was me now, I'd be telling everyone I'm a world champion at what I do. But like in all seriousness, like let's say to be 18 and under and to know you're the best at something in the whole world. What's that actually like to know that?
It's a weird feeling. I suppose I don't like when I'm down here in Limerick. It's a different story. I get humbled by the boys every day, so I kind of don't get reminded of that very often. So I suppose when I'm on interviews and stuff, it does kind of hit me like why everybody is so interested in me. It's because I am a junior medalist, but it's I think it's still a weird feeling.
Yeah. Have you noticed the shift? People kind of, I know, like myself, reaching out for interviews. Has there been a bit of a shift there?
Yeah, definitely. Especially afterwards, kind of right after everybody's like, you kind of want to just get home and do nothing. But you're, like everybody's asking, can you do this? Can you do that? When are you available? All this. So it was fairly mad the first kind of, I suppose, week and a bit of it, but it's kind of calmed down now, which is nice.
Because in the middle of all of that, you had your leaving cert results. So like talk about when the whole country was stressed in terms of your age demographic, you had just a world final going on,
Yeah, it was weird, to be honest. Like I was in the hotel room because like I had the morning off, because it goes like heats and semis the day before and then you have the morning off and then a final in the evening. So I was just kind of sitting in my hotel room, like, do I go onto the site? Do I not? Well, what am I supposed to do? So I just literally just sat down and watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine for the entire thing. It was class.
And you didn't look at it?
I did in the evening with my mom and my dad. I did end up looking at it. So it was a great feeling of being a world junior champion and then get my leaving cert results and. Yeah. Fun at getting into Limerick, so it was great.
Did you just have to block it out? Like I wouldn't have been able to wait for that long to find out. Like, were you just trying to focus on the race? Was that kind of the thinking? I'm not going to open until after, because good or bad, I just want to focus on this.
Yeah, definitely. It was kind of it was kind of easy to take my mind off it because like I really wanted to win that 100 back final, so I just kind of didn't want to think about either of them. I just, as I said, I just sat in my bed all day, and well, I got out for a walk once or twice, just went down to the shop and stuff. But I just kind of sat in bed most days and just watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine for, I think I watched the whole thing through over there. So it was just a comfort show, and just made me being able to think about something else other than the two most important things going on in my life at that stage.
Yeah, because when we talk about the leaving cert, it was very funny. I only interviewed a tennis coach. He's an English guy, but he lives in Spain and is a director of a tennis academy. And I was saying, people go over there and do school there. And he was like, for love nor money, I can't get people away from that leaving cert. I just can't get them off it. Like, so it's funny when your whole world is the leaving cert when you're in sixth year. Your whole world was actually two worlds. One of them being a world championship. So, like, in terms of having the relief when that came home, were you just wrecked after all that?
Yeah, it was a rough year, to be honest. Yeah, as you said, like my world was split into two. I had massive swimming obligations, and I also had massive school obligations. So trying to balance those two things where it was a struggle, to say the least. But
Yeah.
I got a really good group around me. It's really important for something like this. My parents were very understanding. My coach was very understanding of what our situation was, and I think it was like I didn't really need to take time off for the leaving. Like I was training at 6 in the morning, or actually no, I was training at 5:30 in the morning, and then I'd come back in the evening 4 till 6. Like so, I don't, it wasn't impossible to study, but it was still pretty hard.
Mm. Do you find it hard then when you hear of other people? And I was guilty of it as well. I took a bit of time off leaving cert, ended up doing less work than I would have done if I'd gone training. But part of that was probably just get out of training. Do you find it hard when you see so many people give up sport because leaving cert? And well, actually, if you put a bit of effort in, you can actually kind of do both. You can win a world medal and do well in your leaving cert.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really agree with people who seem to want to just like take the time off swimming, or just take time off sport, or even quit their sport for leaving cert. Like, I get if you want to be a doctor, or if you want to, you know, do physio, or whatever you want to do in college. Like, I do get that that's important, but keeping some level of sport is so important. In terms of did I feel weird that other people were doing it? Not really, because like I think the main thing that I needed to keep during it was a routine. If I completely disrupted my routine, I think I would have done a lot worse in the leaving, and potentially done a lot worse, and definitely done a lot worse in the summer. So it did take me a few competitions to kind of get back into it after kind of not really racing for 2 months. But no, it was fine. I think as long as you have a good plan in place, it's really possible.
Mm. Chat to a lot of young athletes on the podcast. I'm really keen to get them on because it's important to highlight how so many Irish athletes across so many disciplines are just excelling in their own field. For you though, like John, you moved to Limerick and we're chatting there. You lived in Limerick for fifth and sixth year, going to different school. You're from Galway. Like when we talk about chasing your dreams, like you very early on in your career, kind of up and left where you're from and your comforts. And I think when I was 15 or 16, like what's that like actually? Having a goal and having a dream, but actually chasing it so early and having to be kind of pulled away from your comfort zone that early at a young age.
I won't. I try and do all these interviews as honest as I can. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I think it was a scary thing, but like it was the only right decision. There was like I couldn't really realistically stay in Galway and improve even more
Mm.
than what I wanted to improve, and where I thought I could go. And after I would like to say it was a long chat with my parents and the performance director at the time and my coach, but it really wasn't that long of a chat. It was John needs to be down here full time to make the most out of it, and my parents were just very very understanding, and they just said, yeah, that's the only way to go about it. And yeah, it was weird, but as I said, my coaches and my teammates and friends down here were a big hand in making it less scary. But I will don't think I'll ever forget that first day of a new school. That was horrible.
Yeah, here's your man. Oh, he's from Galway.
Yeah, yeah, that was basically it.
And in terms of, I think the interesting part of your story as well, like swimming wasn't always your number one. It was, you played a lot of other sports, but rugby was actually the number one. So in terms of that, swimming becoming your number one, when did that start to click? Was it a bit of, I'm kind of good at this, geez, I should probably pursue it and try see where I can go?
Hmm. It was definitely after COVID. I'd say like kind of obviously like we went into two separate lockdowns and kind of sport was kind of coming and going. It wasn't really there for a year or whatever it was. I can't really remember, but it was a year and a bit, whatever. And then kind of got back into it, and I had seen improvements in both sports, but I was improving really dramatically in swimming after COVID, and I think I just slowly kind of realized that I just just really loved swimming, and I loved rugby, absolutely love it, and I definitely miss it every day. And I miss I suppose I miss the team, like the real team aspect of it, and being a part of a group of guys that it's a very strong bond, I think. But I think the only right move was to go towards them, and it was probably about 15, 16. I kind of stopped kind of going to rugby training slowly and surely, and kind of started going to more swimming sessions and doing more, and then going down to Limerick, and then eventually, I think I broke my dad's heart when I kind of need to focus on swimming, and he completely agreed. I think he was getting too nervous watching games and thinking, oh Jesus, your man's going to break an arm or something. And that's swimming done for a few months. Like, so I think swimming was probably the only right call.
Yeah, well, I think what, 5 medals in one summer. I'd say his heart has been mended since.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
You mentioned that as well in another interview about, because swimming is an isolated sport. You're swimming on your own, but you made a good point that you are swimming within a team in Limerick, and there is a team element, but it is a lonely sport. Like, I'm always fascinated by, your sprint distance more than, other people I've interviewed, like Rachel Lee, who I mentioned, who swam the channel. So she was putting up heavy miles in the pool. Like, what do you actually think about when you're putting up miles or when you're getting those sessions in?
Um, I don't. Yeah, it's a lonely kind of sport, But that's the kind of general consensus. But I disagree a lot of the times. I think in sessions it depends on the session as well. Like tonight we have a big session. Tonight we're kind of starting to ramp it up now. The last 6 weeks has really been about gym and making sure that we're physically fit to go back into more intense training and more big blocks of training. But it's different every session. It's like most of the times it's quite boring, and you're just thinking of a movie you watched or a song is roaming around in your head, and then once you get to the wall, you have like a few seconds to chat to the lads in the lane, like probably about something completely stupid and irrelevant to anything that's going on. But it keeps us sane. And then my favorite is just in big sessions when all the guys are getting into it, and people are swimming fast and stuff, and it's very difficult. We tend to kind of shout at each other and really drive each other along. And like even last night we were doing gym testing, and we were doing some core, and like I was one of the last to do it because we kind of messed up the order, but I was doing the last bit of it, and like a few of the lads stayed back and were shouting and roaring at me to not drop, and all this sort of stuff. So it was, people think swimming is a lonely sport, and it definitely is, but there's a massive team aspect to it as well.
Yeah, I love that. That reminds me of an interview I did with she's the director of basketball operations in the States at Stanford University, and I was talking about kind of they kind of get guest speakers in every now and then, and she was saying about, I forget who it was, it could have been even military, and they were just talking about how when they're going through like, the dark moments, where it's not dark moments as in it's just the dogged sessions where you're just, oh, you're being killed or whatever. They were just talking about, saying, I see you, I see the effort, or like just that verbal aspect. Is that kind of the camaraderie in the pool that keeps you going?
Yeah, definitely. um I think it's yeah, it's it's different. Like it's different to most other sports because you only get a few seconds to really shout at each other before you kind of have to get going again. But it's yeah, it does keep you going, especially in those really long sessions. And we went to, myself and two other boys from down here went to Flagstaff with Dan Whiffen just after our World Championship trials, and it was really us three just swimming together for 3 weeks. So it was it's a certain camaraderie that's different to most other sports.
Mm. I was at a GA performance analysis conference last year, and a guy called Kevin McGuigan was there. I don't know if you know Kevin. He works
Yes,
for Meta. Yeah,
I know Kevin very well.
yeah, gent, great guy. I was
Yeah.
I was grilling him at one point. He was like, "Can you ease up on the questions?" But he was telling me about a little bit of insight into what the work he was doing with Tom Fannin, just with the video analysis of the sessions. I think they went to Denmark to some pool that has cameras in it or something. I don't know. It was. Do you know
Funnily,
about that?
Eindhoven is the pool. And funnily enough, me and my coach are going to a European camp with a lot of European swimmers there for next week. So
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
it's interesting anyway, that's for sure. But
yeah.
yeah, his work is very interesting. He's starting to come down now every 2 weeks. He comes down with us and he brings all the different bits of gear, and we work on our starts and that sort of thing. And it's very interesting work what himself and Tom are doing. Definitely.
Yeah, like I don't have a background in swimming at all. Like I can swim, but I choose not to, is what I tell people because I hate going swimming now. But it was interesting to hear his insights into the stuff he was doing with Tom. Like I think they shaved off maybe a couple of seconds with the work they were doing. Like this was only a month or two out to Paris. Like it was really tight. But like he was like, from your perspective, John, give us an insight to those that don't know swimming. Video analysis coming in with starts. Are you literally like looking for the 1%? Like how do you break it down in the video analysis?
It's yeah, it's interesting, and it's hard to explain in a short period of time. But when you're looking at small, really small stuff in the starts, like we were looking at what's the start position. So with my backstroke start, I'm in the water when I start. So do I need to pull myself more into the block? Do I need to pull myself a little bit further away? Do I need to pull up a small bit more? Those are the small things you do at the first start of the bit. And then there's a lot of really tiny things that you can tweak to help you get a better start. So when Kevin came down there a few weeks ago, my start was pretty poor. But in saying that, like I don't get to see myself. I obviously can't look outside my body to see what I'm doing. So I don't know what's really going on. So to see him break it down step by step helps improve it a lot. And within the first within a few weeks now, my start has gotten a lot better, a lot cleaner, a lot smoother. So the video analysis is really really important for a high level sport.
Yeah, in terms of the schedule, video analysis is one component. Probably takes up probably I'm assuming the smallest amount of time between the gym and swimming. Give us an insight into a typical training week. Are you up at the crack of dawn before the sun and take us till sundown?
Yeah, pretty much. It was worse last year. I was up at 20 to 5 most days. And I'd be in the water for half 4. So we had to get to the pool pretty early to stretch and all that different bits and pieces. So it's yeah, pretty much. I was going like some days I wouldn't be getting home then till like 8 o'clock or something, or half 7, 8 o'clock, and I'd be like rushing through my homework, my dinner, and getting to bed, before 9 o'clock. So um yeah, that's basically it. It was long last year, but this year is a bit different. I get to wake up an hour later because I'm in college now. So the guys are back in now at half 6. So it's a bit nicer. Which it doesn't sound nicer, but it definitely is.
Yeah, I was like, it's a nice lie on, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. An extra hour in bed, can't complain.
Yeah, yeah. And is there much gym work involved, and even the stretching? Like, how much time does that take up a week? I'm just trying to get an insight into, for people listening as well, that what does it take to be an elite swimmer that isn't just swimming.
Yeah, it's a lot of swimming takes up. We're 4 hours swimming on Monday, 4 hours on Tuesday, 2 hours on a Wednesday, two on a Thursday, four on a Friday, and then another two on a Saturday. So we can do the maths on that, and I'm not going to do them now. But and then the gym, depending on the weeks, like we're usually an hour and a half in the gym Tuesdays, Thursdays, and we do one on Saturdays as well. So it's yeah, and then plus stretching, between stretching and physio and all different sorts of stuff. Like we're well over 20 hours a week. So it's pretty much eat, sleep, train, and that's it. Repeat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. It's very hard though.
Yeah. Is there a nice camaraderie within UL? Even I know some of the other sports scholar students there, from basketball perspective, like Sarah Hickey, Connor Coughlin. Is there a good kind of rapport between not just swimmers but all athletes in UL? I get the sense they mingle a lot when you're a sports scholar there.
Yeah, yeah, we do. It's funny you should mention that. Yeah, because I lived with, like, we'd be friendly with a lot of the athletes here. Like, we'd be very friendly with the athletics guys, the triathlete guys, a lot of the basketballers as well. Like, we'd know quite a lot of them, and we'd mix and match every now and again. And during the summer there, I lived with two or three athletics guys in the house, and two triathletes, and it's really good, and there definitely is a big sort of whole team aspect, because yeah, we are involved in different sports, but we're also all representing UL. We're all here studying, we're all here training in UL, so there's a massive team aspect within the college, and then obviously if you're smaller teams of swimmers and athletics, rugby, all them guys, like, so it's cool
Yeah.
down here.
One of the other things I spotted online was mentioned that you were kind of offered trips in the United States. You know, we've seen a lot of people do that. Mona, for example, well known, has gone to Tennessee. In terms of sticking with UL, was it just the graw of Limerick as a Galway man, or why did you stay there?
No, I have very little love for Limerick. No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking. No, Limerick is, like, UL is amazing. And I love the team down here. I love my coaches down here. That was two really big pulls, was the team, and my coach as well. Those were two big pull factors for me, and the US is amazing, and going over there and seeing the facilities and how much money has been pumped into their sports over there is very eye opening. But I think UL was really my only option. I wanted to go to UL and wanted to stay here because I trust my coaches and my team, that I know that a lot of us can really make an impact on world swimming in the next 3-4 years. Like, you've seen Ellie making a world final. Ellie McCartney, she made a world final there during the summer, and Evan was amazing. Owen, like, a lot of these guys, Jack, were so good, and we had relay teams going to worlds that were all Limerick. Like, so it's something is working down here, and I just like to say that the grass isn't always greener, on the other side, and maybe if I'd gone to the US, who knows what could happen. But I don't want to shut the door on that option yet, because it is something that I do want to do in the future. But right now,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
really happy
fair.
in US.
Is there, when you mentioned so many, like we've had so much success in swimming, particularly over the last couple of years, as a nation, when we go to World Championship, as with Éire, with Ireland on your back and on your, with the flag, are heads starting to turn from other countries and say, Ireland aren't just here to take part, they're here to really put it up to us and to go out and get medals?
Yeah, 100%. I think more people are starting to notice us and notice the efforts we're putting in, and I think even around the country, people are seeing that. People are seeing Dan, Mona, Ellen. Those three have really been driving it on the last 3-4 years now. With Mona making her first Olympic final in Tokyo, and then really building on from there. And Dan made our first ever world final a few years back. So it's we're definitely improving from. You really only see 2-3 Irish athletes at a major competition. Maybe since like 2016 they had three, I think, going for swimming, and then in 2024 I think we had 10 or 11 swimmers. Like, so people are definitely noticing those efforts, and there's still a way to go, and there's still work to be done. But I'm very proud to be one of the people leading in this next, I suppose, generation of swimmers, coming through the next Olympic cycle. And sorry, not just saying I'm the only one. There's many people who are really spearheading it. But I'm very proud to be part of this team.
Yeah, you mentioned Mona. You're the first medal since Mona's win in 2017 at the Worlds. Seeing what she's achieved. I actually didn't realize I saw you swim last year at the Olympic qualifiers in the Aquatics Centre. You were there on that day. I was with John Kenny, and I remember him saying a couple of names, and he said, "Oh, John will be good. Watch him." What's it like, kind of seeing that path now that the likes of those ahead of you have walked, and you're starting to follow in those footsteps?
Yeah, I think it was important for me to see that it is possible for us, even as a small nation, that we're able to compete on a big stage. Again, like I said, there's still work to be done, but to see that we have an Olympic, I still can't believe that we have an Olympic champion in Ireland. And an Olympic medalist in Mona as well, like Olympic finalists. Ellen and Tom in the 53 as well. Like it's crazy. Like if you told people that, you know, even 5 or 6 years ago, they'd probably tell you to go away in a not so nice language that I shouldn't say on an interview, but I think you can get what I mean. But it's mental, and to see those guys taking on the world really is very very inspiring. It's uplifting for us, when when we were coming through there when I was 15, 16, 17, and watching those guys keep getting better. It was very inspiring for us really, to be able to know that we can be up there.
Mm. I don't do the typical interview question, but I feel like I need to, and my audience would be annoyed if I didn't. But I heard someone say before, two letters, LA. Obviously, like clearly, it's on the horizon. Is it within the grasp, do you think? And what your goals are?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not really thinking about it too much yet. It's like we're 3 years out, or less than 3 years out, but it's we have a lot of smaller, not smaller goals, but obviously the biggest, the Everest, shall we say, is LA, but we have a lot of other smaller peaks to climb. We got Europeans this year. We have Worlds where we can qualify for the Olympics next year. So it's like there's a lot to be done in between now and then. But hopefully the next years goes well, and like as I said, I trust my coaches completely, so I know that they can get me there, and I know I can get there. But we still got a bit of time to go.
Yeah, I think the public tendency, especially, is to always focus on the Olympic. Like how Harris went. One question I asked Daniel was about, and kind of people were interested to hear, for a sport that you're kind of, the worlds and the Olympics and the big competitions are only every couple of cycles. How do you break it down, the bigger, lofty stuff into the day to day? I understand your coach will have a role, but even for you, John, how do you break down these? Let's call it, let's say, the 4 year cycle as an example. How do you break that down into the week to week and day to day basis?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because there's so much going on every year. There's so much important stuff to do. It's very hard to know, what to exactly focus in on, and what to know exactly what you want to do. But it's just taking every week in your stride, and a lot of weeks you're not going to be very good. A lot of weeks you're going to be really really honest. It's just all depends. So to break it up, really, it's just going from competition to competition. Really, it doesn't matter if it's we had Munster aspiring here last weekend, and we were with like a lot of smallies who are looking up to us, and it was great. It was a really good weekend of racing. Did some off events and did some of my main ones, and it was really really positive all around. So it's doing stuff like that is just looking forward to the next competition, and whatever that competition is. We'll have Munster short course here in 3 or 4 weeks time, and then we're straight into Europeans, and then we have European short course, and then we have Irish short course championships, and then we're into the long course season. So you do like to break it up into the short course season would be between now and December, and then long course would be January to August. So you can break it up like that as well, but it's all just taking it in your stride and taking it one step at a time.
I was talking to Annalise Murphy about it, obviously Olympic medalist, different sport, but we were talking about what's it like being a pro, like what do you learn, and like I know you're still in college, but you're going all in on swimming, but she was kind of saying how she learned that it's not all about being a pro doesn't mean you're 100% max effort every day. It's about finding the max of each day. I'm just interested when you're slogging the way in the pool and getting up as early as you are. You know, how do you when you wake up in bad form or you're sick, or just how do you keep coming when and showing up every day when sometimes you probably just don't want to be there?
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like it's very hard. A lot of times you hear people like Michael Phelps going, there was at least 100 days a year where I really didn't want to get in the pool, and that's where motivation can come and go. It comes and goes very regularly, but discipline is the most important thing in sports. If you can do something that you don't like doing at 100%, you can pretty much do anything. So, like when we're slogging away in January, February time, just hoping and praying that we can get to April time. That's the stuff that really carries you through, and I suppose just the experience. Like my opinion is just the experiences in the sport. Like I know that even though I don't like doing certain things, that they do lead to amazing memories, and I'll never forget the amazing wins of worlds and the really low points of European juniors, a few weeks prior. So it's all money in the bank at the end of the day, and that's what you have to keep in mind is you just have to be consistent, and sometimes you don't want to be, but that's just the sport.
Yeah, brilliant. Where do you think all of your drive and your energy and that discipline would be if it wasn't swimming?
Uh, I don't know. I actually have no idea. I probably in rugby, to be honest. How good I would have been at rugby, I have absolutely no idea. I didn't really get far enough in my career to be accomplishing any real kind of goals, but you know, I, where that would go to, I have absolutely no idea. Maybe it'd go into gaming or something, but
It sounds like Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the calling.
it is, yeah, yeah, yeah. I could be an actor or something. That's where I'd go to. No, honestly, I have no idea where it would go to, but I'm glad it's going into swimming so far.
When we talk about athletic identity a lot with guests, are you good at separating John the swimmer and John the college student, or how do you find that?
Yeah, I think it was very hard when I first moved down here to separate, you know, swimming and everything else because like we're pretty much it's like 24/7, 365. Like it's very hard to get time to actually be just yourself, and I think I've discovered that now over the last year and a bit. And doing I had a bit more time off. Well, I didn't have more time off, but I finished later than a lot of the other guys did, so I was able to kind of go out and have a bit of crack and do this and that and do things that I don't normally get to do. And we don't get very many opportunities, but when we get those windows, we tend to make the most out of them. So it's great to be able to do that now and to be kind of like I'm an adult now, which sounds completely ridiculous to say, but I'm I'm able to kind of do those different bits and pieces now, and it's easier to separate the two, which is a nice feeling. And we get to come home, and some evenings we watch a movie and make hot chocolate, or we were having a table quiz there up across in the other house where the other guys are living. Like, so it's very easy once you get to college, I suppose.
Do you find when after a race, when you think back to kind of you were saying some of the accolades and stuff that'll kind of push you through the hard days, do you have a good memory of a race, or do you or is it over so quick and you kind of black it out?
That's a good. Some races I do really remember. Some races I don't. I don't. I just judge it based on how much they hurt. So like I will just always remember European Juniors this year, the 200 back. It hurt. Like I've never experienced it since, or I've never experienced it before or since. But it was just an unimaginable. Like I couldn't stand for like 10 minutes afterwards, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible feeling, and they were like rushing me to get me up onto the podium, and I was disappointed as well with how the race went and all that. So I was just like I was shagged, like, and I just couldn't get up. But it's most of the time those are what the memories are of how much they hurt. But then sometimes memories are of like the 100 back at Worlds, where I wasn't the favorite going into it, but I somehow managed to get my hand on the wall for us. So those some of those memories stick out, but a lot of the ones like when you're in season, like when we're in January, February, March, a lot of those just kind of fade into the background.
Are you very aware when you're swimming? Like it's interesting. I remember. I don't think it was on this. I think I was listening to an interview and they were saying it could have been Mona actually talking about the Olympics where she just couldn't see her competitor. I think when she was trying to figure out, sorry, when she was coming third or fourth, she had spotted someone on one side but couldn't see the other, obviously with her stroke. But like, are you very aware of the other competitors? Are you very focused on yourself? Just how does that work in the water?
Depends. Like at World Juniors, I was not that aware because my goggles are actually kind of foggy. On the two back, especially, like I knew I was winning, but I didn't know by how much. So I just kind of just tried to block it out and just hope I got to the end first. But and then in some other races, I'm very aware of, especially really the person beside me. The other people around me, I don't really mind that much. It's really the person who's kind of up with me. That's something I'm very aware of. I try to be aware of anyway, especially when you're underwater. You can kind of see them a bit better, see where they are in the race, see where you are in the race. But when I'm kind of up on top of the water, I have a vague idea of where they are at. But sometimes it's just such an intense race where you're just really just focused on yourself. Like I suppose maybe actually, yeah, the 100 back, I kind of wasn't really focused too much on where Gavin was. I just kind of closed my eyes and pulled like a dog, as the two rowers would say. Like so, well, I didn't really close my eyes because that'd be a bad idea, but you get the idea.
Do you not train now with the lights off like Phelps? Because he did that, didn't he? So his goggles, if they came off, some I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, Bowman is mental. Yeah, I think everybody who trains under him has that kind of those kind of stories of. I think he's a little bit chiller now, but back when Phelps was kind of coming through, he'd do definitely do something like that. He'd step on his goggles and break them and force him to swim with just his eyes. Just um, that's how it was. But yeah, I mean, it was uh, it was mental. Yeah, it was. But no, I don't really have a story like that. If stuff goes wrong in a race, you just deal with it. When it comes to you, I don't. Yeah, but like Phelps, was a different breed altogether.
Yeah, true. Daniel didn't agree that he was swimming on Christmas Day. Daniel said, "I'm the Olympic champion and I can't get a pool open." No way, Michael Phelps is swimming on Christmas Day.
There's a lot of debate on what Phelps did or didn't do during his career. I think some of the stuff is exaggerated. Like I don't really think he swam. I don't really know if he swam 7 days a week for 7 years. I don't really believe that because there's so much. He does a lot of travel. He did a lot of traveling and a lot of competitions. So you're really telling me that you didn't take one day off to do a whole long haul flight? Like that's it's a bit much. But then there's some stuff that I do really believe. Like his coach was onto him about how much Michael visualized something so much that when he was sleeping, he'd have dreams of the race and what would happen. And he had this one dream before the Olympics, before his 400 IM final, that he went a certain time to 300. And then when the actual race came along, he touched the 300 and he was that exact time. Stuff like that. I do think that there is some validity because you see it a lot in high level sport, like with boxing or MMA especially. Those guys really do have stuff like that. So sometimes people are just so invested in something that it just becomes a part of them. I do think stuff like that was true, but then some stuff was definitely exaggerated.
Yeah, actually, like very interesting. Daniel said the exact same. But he also made a point. You're probably going to rest one of those days. Didn't even think of traveling, but he said as well he would dream of the races. But it makes sense when you're in the pool for that long and you know the sport so well and you're training so much. What's your self talk like, John, when you're in a race? Do you have time to think? What do you are you motivated by? Come on, hurry the f up, or are you saying come on, keep going? It's very positive or negative.
It's positive. I think it has to be positive because like people do respond positively or to people shouting at them to get up or this or that. But I'd be fine with that if somebody was roaring at me and telling me, "Come on, you're dropping off, whatever." But like, I think positive energy is a better solution than. So I just try and approach that to training instead of roaring at everybody to that they're too slow or something like that. Like I wouldn't be doing any of that.
Out of interest, you're only 18, but you've quite a mature, to tell you're very mature, deep thinker. Probably all the time you spend swimming. Any swimmer I know is a real deep thinker. They're very intelligent. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from sport so far, John?
I've learned a lot, especially in these past 2 years. Because I had to learn a lot, or else I was not going to survive down here in Limerick and survive high level sport. But the biggest lesson is I think you just have to keep going and keep believing that you can do it. And like there's a lot of times that it doesn't happen, and sometimes you just really mess up. And I've done that a lot. Like I've the Olympic trials in 2024 and the European juniors this year when I didn't win the two back. There's a lot of those moments where the like you really stop liking swimming and you stop believing in yourself. But it's just you just have to keep showing up and keep tipping away at it, and eventually that's a lot of those experiences will build up to what hopefully is a very strong mind. And I think you saw that. I think you saw the accumulation of that at European Juniors when I didn't win the two back, and then I came back and I won the 100 back. And I think a lot of people, a lot of coaches did come up to my coach and commend me for that and really respected me for that. And I think that was one of the biggest things was that I was able to come back from it. So there's nothing like I knew if I could get past that, then there's nothing I couldn't do. So yeah.
My favourite question, John, what separates the best from the rest? What is it from your perspective?
It's doing the extra bits, and you hear that all the time. But I really think that it's so true that when you're like a lot of people work really hard, and but they don't make it as good, um, or they fail or stuff like that. Like I think you have to do all the small bits. You have to get to bed on time. You have to make sure that you're eating consistently really good stuff and doing your extra bits like after training. A few of us do a really awful core session courtesy of Dennis O'Brien. He's a man for he loves his core, so he did it all last year and he saw some really good improvements. So I decided I'm gonna start doing that more consistently this year. So it's stuff like that, working on your starts, doing stuff outside of training that helps. Because a lot of people work really hard. A lot of people do the stuff that is assigned to them in training. But if you're not doing all the smaller bits, that's what separates the best from the rest, I
Love
suppose.
it. That reminds me of Gráinne Walsh, the boxer, gave me a line. When I asked for a favourite quote, she said, if it's easy to do, it's easy not to do. And that
Yes.
just reminded me of it there. In terms of, you're only 18, right? So I'm saying 15 years, I probably had 15 years, you probably have a couple of years left in you, even at that point. But let's say we repeat that interview in 15 years, this interview in 15 years' time. What will you have hoped to achieve, and what will I intro you as? When I said world champ and a beast 18, what will it be at 33?
Um, Hopefully, Olympian and legend. That's what I hope. What I do at the Olympics, will wait and see. I don't like to. I know my own goals. I don't like to fully put it out there, but I would like to be on par with stuff that Dan and Mona and Ellen have all achieved, and I do think that I can do it. As opposed to the specifics, I'll keep those ones to myself. But I think the legend bit has to absolutely be included in that intro.
Love it, love it. Well, we'll repeat this in 15 years.
Yeah,
If I pick up the phone, I'll be here waiting. So
I'll put it down on the calendar up here.
love it, love it. John, sideline seven, same seven questions at the end of every episode. Question one: what's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote. Oh, I was thinking about this all day. I actually said it in an interview. I said, oh, what did I say? I said, have you ever seen Ted Lasso?
I love Ted Lasso, John.
It's
Oh my
I'm
god.
rewatching it. It's class, but yeah, he says taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. And it's great because it's funny, but it's also very true. Like you can't, if you're completely in your comfort zone whilst taking on a challenge, it's probably not going to be as good as you think it's going to be. So I think it applies to everyday life.
Yeah, I love that series because it's so funny and some of the metaphors are funny, but there's a lot of meaning behind it. Obviously, because it's a metaphor. But like some of the stuff, I love the darts piece. When they're playing darts, and it's like
Oh
barbecue sauce. That series is
yeah.
my favorite. Yeah,
Be curious, not judgmental. That's a
yeah.
really good one. And also one quote is not my favorite quote, but it's something I'm going to work into an interview one of the days. It's have you ever seen the clip of Brian O'Driscoll? And he's like, knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
No, I haven't heard that one. That's brilliant.
That he's once said that one of his friends bet him that he couldn't say it in an interview, and he said it one of the days. But I'm waiting for it to come up naturally, so that I can say it. It's not my favorite quote, but it's something I want to work into an interview one of the days.
Well, you've got it in so far. Maybe in LA, maybe you could just throw it in. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
I'll just
something.
throw it in completely randomly.
Yeah. Question two: best sporting event you've been to. Pick one as a competitor and one as a fan.
One as a competitor was, oh, geez, that's a great question. Probably, geez, probably. Well, I would say World Juniors this year was really cool. The way that they done it, it was very cool layout. The interviews after the races were really cool. The pool was amazing. Um, and just in general, that pool in Penny is gorgeous. The whole layout of the place is unbelievable. So, that was a really cool place to be. And I've been in like amazing places before, but that was it's a really really good setup there, especially for that. World Aquatics like to put on a nice little event, so it was really good. As a fan, I'm gonna have to say I went to the Rugby World Cup in 2023. I went to see Ireland versus South Africa, and it was the best. It was the best, one of the best weekends I've ever had. I just moved down. I just moved down to Limerick as well, so it was it was nice from my brother and from my dad, and we went with my uncle from Australia and my two cousins as well. So it was unbelievable, and it was like they we I think it was one of the first games where they sang Zombie and they sang Don't Stop Me Now as well, and it was class, and it was nail biting stuff. And then I'll never forget it. One guy came up to me and he like kind of grabbed me by the collar, and I thought, geez, this is it. I'm about to get mugged or something. And he just shouts in my face, "We're gonna win the effing World Cup." And was never filled with so much hope in my life. Now, obviously, it didn't pan out. Let's not talk about that. But that was without doubt the best sporting event I've ever been to. It was
Epic,
class.
epic. Can I get your thoughts on? I've been watching Breakpoint and Full Swing, and I haven't got into Drive to Survive. I don't know why. I feel like I just don't really like F1 or Formula One. Would a swimming version? I'm trying to even think of a title for the swimming version of that. I'm assuming you know what I mean. Those Netflix behind the scenes. Would a swimming one? Would that
Yeah,
be good, or would it just be so much training and be boring?
that would be class, in my opinion. I don't think you need to necessarily show all of the training bits. Like a lot of the training bits are kind of boring, but like I think if you made one of over in Texas with Bob Bowman's training group over there, I think that would be so good. So if you can get onto Netflix or someone like that, get that going, because that's something swimming needs. Like I think a lot of the stuff like Full Swing and Drive to Survive, like they've brought a new like younger and maybe even older demographic to their sport, and like golf has never been more popular than it is right now. Like me and my family are all obsessed with it now. My dad has been obsessed with it for many many years, but we've really all gotten into it now, and I think a lot of those things is just people are seeing the inside of it, and I think if people would see the inside of it a bit more, it would be a bit more of a glamorous sport. But a lot of people don't see what's behind the scenes, so they just assume that it's very boring.
Yeah, because I think the Stade de France in Paris, they did such a good job of that with just the venue and the feedback from that. I didn't actually get to I was in Paris, but didn't get to into this. Or sorry, not Stade de France. That's the athletics and the rugby. I was at it.
Yeah,
The actual pool, the place where they put the pool in. It wasn't
yeah,
actually built for swimming. I forget the name
yeah.
of it.
It
Anyway,
was Toulouse, I think Toulouse Stadium. I can't remember
yeah,
what
it
the
was
actual
a
name
stadium.
of it is.
Yeah, it was a stadium. I remember the videos of them building it. I think the feedback was so good from that. But interesting actually meant I'm actually going to Austin, Texas in 2 weeks. So I'll be at the University of Texas. I know Evan Bailey's going in January.
He is,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I'll have a word with them and letting them know Netflix are on the way with Evan and tow.
Class,
Um,
class.
Question three is biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
Um, I kind of like really. I have two in mind, but I think the biggest one was, you know, definitely this year. Like in 2024, I didn't qualify for the Olympics in Paris. I was very close, and I think I probably should have, but it was just too much pressure for me, and it was very hard. But I think the biggest one was this year. I was not nailed on to win European Juniors, but I was a very heavy favorite for the 200 back, and I think I there was a lot of people looking at me saying, yeah, there's no chance anybody can get in there, but I I completely messed up the race, hit my hand on the lane up. There was a and then died on my arse, and it was very hard, and I was very hard on myself afterwards, and it was a difficult period as well, with the leaving cert and a lot of other stuff as well going on in the background. So I took that very hard, but I just tried to bounce back, and I think that's what I talked about earlier with my mental strength to be able to kind of lean on the people around me and just kind of take it step by step and just, all right, I'm going to go into the heats, the 100 back, and let's see how it goes. All right, let's see how the semi final goes now. Right, I'm in the final, let's just give it a good go. And then I, ended up winning the 100 back. So the setbacks are all, a part of life and definitely a part of sport. So just all about how you react to it. That's it.
Brilliant. On the flip side, your biggest achievement. I think I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, I think World Juniors was pretty good. um, the two goals there was amazing, and even the 50, like I was outside lane. I felt awful in the heats and the semis because I'd put a lot of mental and physical strength into the 100 back final the day before, so I was still kind of just hoping that I could make it back and get a bit of rest, and maybe I could just come back and do something pretty cool. And she keeps getting annoyed at me for giving her shout outs on interviews, but my physio Roisin here in Limerick was amazing. She came over a little bit later. Came over from her holidays, so that went over well. But no, she absolutely fixed me, and I was able to do something really special in that 50 back. So I think World Juniors as a whole was very positive.
Brilliant. Question five is usually advice to your 18-year-old self. Seeing as you're still only 18, what advice would you give your younger self?
Um, I just think, uh, geez, I don't know. I think keep going, because I think a few years back there was a lot of stuff that was pretty tough to handle, and especially when I first came down to Limerick, and even before that, really, there was stuff that was pretty tough to handle. And to then move away was pretty hard to handle at a quite young age, like so. I think the biggest piece of advice is it's just simple. You just keep going, keep working, and you know, like you'll get the rewards in the end. No matter how bad something seems, all kind of works out in the end, I suppose. So that's exactly what happened here. Now this isn't the end. I still have hopefully a few more years left. So no, it's all good.
Yeah. What's the best advice you've got from anyone else? Like, you've mentioned Dan and Mona, but there could be someone else that comes to mind. Is there any good nugget you've been given?
Um, I don't know. Not really. Like most of the time, it's quite hard to give someone else like a lot of people that give someone else advice. But I actually just think that actually no, I do. A swimmer, Connor Ferguson. He is he owned a lot of the junior records before myself, and he's still swimming, thankfully. He's an amazing. He's one of my massive role models. Especially because he's also a backstroker, and he's also a world junior medalist and a European junior medalist. So it's he's a big role model for myself. But he always just says to me, don't, the swimming is only a temporary thing. Don't let it define you as a person. And that's what I try and not do. Like, no matter how, good or bad I do at a race, I'm still John at the end of the day, and I still have, people who love me and people who, like are excited to see me come back home. And that's what my family are like. So, I think the biggest thing he told me was just to keep, keep, just keep being myself, really.
Brilliant. Dream dinner guest and why. You can have a dinner party if you want.
Oh, I was thinking about this the other day actually. A few lads gave me I showed the lads a few of the questions and they were giving me some suggestions. But I think geez, who probably Ron Burgundy. Have you ever seen
Oh
Anchorman?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think he would be my dream dinner guest. Getting his opinions and just his general humor as well is very. I love those movies. They're so funny. So I
Yeah.
think if I were to have a dream dinner guest, it'd probably be him.
Yeah. Not Ted Lasso, no.
I was gonna say Ted Lasso, but he'd chew the ear off me a bit too much.
Brilliant. John, final question before I let you go. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
Uh, Geez. What chapter would this be called? Uh, I don't really know. I mean, probably just oh, college or something. That's what this massive chapter would be called, and then the next chapter would be pro swimmer or something.
Brilliant.
So I had school then on the last chapter. We'll close that chapter for good anyway. Hated that chapter.
Brilliant. Well, John, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to the interview in October 2040. Can't believe that'll be
Yeah,
in 15 years' time. I'll see you then.
Jesus.
But until then,
Yeah,
I look forward to following your journey of becoming a legend, and thanks so much for your time.
perfect. Thank you very much.